compulsory coverage. Anong ibig sabihin nito? What is this Section 9 all about? And what is the difference between Section 9 and Section 9-A? Last question for you, Miss Ababaw.
So yung coverage yung sa Section 9 po, it's about po yung sa mga kasama po dyan all employees, yung mga kasambahays and domestic workers. Then yung sa Section 9A naman po, ito po yung mga yung indicated po mga professionals. Yung sa ano po sila, mga self-employed po sila.
Okay, you are correct. So first, when you say self-employed, you mention what is this self-employed thing? When can you say that you are a self-employed or that a person is self-employed and not under any employment?
Yung example po siguro sir, kapag may own business ka po.
Okay, if you have your own business, you are self-employed because you are not working for someone else. You are not under the employ of someone. You have no employer, so to speak. So Section 9 actually talks about compulsory coverage. So the persons mentioned here must be member of an SSS. So we have here all employees, no? Even domestic workers or kasambahays must be registered or must be a member of an SSS, provided that they are not more than 60 years old. Kasi yun po yung retirement natin, di po ba? Now, sa Section 9 naman, self-employed. Self-employed professionals. If you are a lawyer and you are not under any employment, you are not teaching, you are not under a firm, but you are practicing your profession by yourself, solo practitioner, then you are self-employed. Same is true with other professions. And we have partners, proprietor, actors, and actresses. Actors and actresses here are freelancers. If you are an actor and you are under employment by a certain network, then you are an employee. So yun po yung sabi dito. And professional athletes, coaches, etc. So these are persons who earn income, of course, and under the rule, they must be employed, or they must be member of an SSS. If you take a look the second bullet under Section 9, spouses who are full-time, no, managing the household could be member of an SSS, but voluntarily. Meaning not required, unless of course you are a household member or you're a household wife, yet you are also into a business, and that's it, where you are required to be registered as a member under the category of self-employed individual. So that is on compulsory coverage. That is Miss Ababaw. You have here OFWs. You mentioned about OFW kanina. Same. If you are an OFW, overseas Filipino workers, whether you are sea-based, seaman, or land-based, you must be a member of an SSS. Because again, the law looks at the situation where what would happen to you after your employment. There are those who do not know really how to, save money and, reserve something for the future. That's why we have this SSS. Now, if you are if you are an OFW or an employee, domestic, domestic here, and your employment is over, has ended, regardless of the reason, you may still continue to be a member of an SSS, but this time you will become, or you will be under the category of a voluntary member. And you will continue paying your premiums. So, paano ba to yung SSS? How does this SSS operate? The law requires that you must be a member. Okay? All employers in the private sector must register their employees. Mayroon lang limitations mamaya, not more than the number of employees required. So so that these employees must be part of SSS. Okay, so we have here date of coverage. We mentioned, and Eureka mentioned a while ago, that if you are an employee, there is this so-called employer share. Ano ba yung setup nito? Empleyado ko, Eureka is my employee, is one of my employees now. Now, the law requires that I have to withhold portion of Eureka's salary. Under the rule, it should be on the second payday of the month. So usually, it falls on the 30th or 31st of the month. That is when I will withhold portion of her salary based on the standard computation, which we will discuss later on by the SSS. Now, that portion being withheld would be part of her contribution as premium with the SSS. The law further requires that an employer must also share, no, to that premiums, to that contribution. That's why we call employer share. So all in all, we have the employee's contribution plus employer share that constitute the premium of Eureka. So now Eureka is a member, and then that should be regularly deducted from her and regularly also contributed by the employer, and finally regularly what you call this one, transmitted or reported. The money would be transmitted to the SSS. Just like taxes, SSS premiums are withheld by the employers. The law requires that for expediency and of course for order, because it would be tedious that each employee will go there and file. So the law devised that why not require the employer? In the first place, it is the employer who knows his employees and the number of employees, the salaries, etc., and all other considerations. That's why siya po yung tinatawag na withholding agent, just like in your taxes, PIR. And within a certain period, this employer will remit the the premiums that are being withheld. So yun po yun. So the question in section 10 here is that when is the date of the coverage? Remember, as mentioned by Eureka, tatlo po yun sila. Employer share, we have the employees, and the so-called self-employed. Kailan ba maging member ka ng SSS pag ikaw po ay empleyado, pag ikaw po ay employer, or pag ikaw po ay self-employed? Kailan daw? Anong sabi dito, Alcanzo? Yes, what is your answer?
Yung start po ng yung effective date of coverage po ng law na to is yung start of the day on the first day of the employer hires the employee. Kung kailan niya po hinire yung employee, and then yung employer po meron po siyang binibigyan po siya ng 30 days para from the date of the employment para i-report yung person sa SSS through tinatawag pong employment report, SS form R-1A.
Okay. Okay, pero ang tanong ko, since you mentioned about employer, kailan employer ang nag-hire, kailan po siya magiging member ng SSS? Ako po, mayroon po akong employment. So ngayon, ang tanong, what is the time or when will I be required to be part of SSS?
First day of the operation po ba?
First day of operation. So kung employer po ako ngayon, sandali lang ha, employer po ako ngayon ako nag-operate, pa-register ako na part ng SSS. Ngayon, mag-hire na po ako ng mga tao or may mga tao na po ako. Then we know also that if you are under employment, if you are an employee, you are required to be part of an SSS. So when would be an employee become member of an SSS?
Kapag po na-report na po yung employee nung employer sa SSS?
Kailan?
Pag nakapag-submit na po ng report and yung first day ng operation niya.
Yan. Ikaw ha, Alcanzo. Yes, first day of employment. So ngayon, hi-hire kita. Dapat i-report na kita. Okay, interview ko si Rachel. Oh yes, Rachel. Oh, thank you very much. You are so good. And you are hired. So sign ka ng contract, etc. Then that is also the time. That is the very reckoning period. It's not more on the reporting yet. Kasi sabi mo nga kanina, 30 days. Actually, 10 days later on, di-discuss natin yan. Pero ngayon nga araw na to, ito po ang date na member ka ng SSS. Pag self-employed naman, business, may business ka, ayaw mo mag-employ, gusto mo ikaw ang boss ng buhay mo or ng business mo. So when will you be part of an SSS?
Pag self-employed po, sir, ano to? Kapag po nakapag-register ka na sa SSS or the first day of your business operation?
Kung kailan gusto mo. Yan, kung kailan gusto mo. So ulit po tayo, pag employer ka, first day of operation. Pag employee ka, worker ka, first day of your work. If you are a voluntary member, self-employed, then it's up to you upon your registration. Kung gusto mong magpa-register ngayon, then yan, ngayon yung araw na member ka. But again, this is without prejudice to those earlier provisions which require that if you are a self-employed, then you must register. That is on Section 10, effective date. Now, last question for you, Ms. Alcanzo. We talked about compulsory membership. So, hinire kita, you are hired, and you are my employee. So, therefore, it is incumbent upon me. I am required by the law. It's not you. The burden there to register lies with the employer. So, ako po ang magre-register sa'yo at saka ako po ang magwi-withhold ng salary mo representing your share on the premiums and my also contribution. So ako po yung mag-endorse po doon. Ngayon, what if nag-resign ka or what if natanggal ka sa trabaho for whatever reasons you are no longer connected with my employment? Ano po yung mangyayari sa membership mo sa SSS? Mawala na ba o ano bang sistema?
Sir, yung parang obligation po ng employer, parang wala na po yun. Hindi niya na po obligation na magbayad, yung bayaran ka sa SSS at the end of the month of the separation.
That is correct. So if you are, if your employment ends now, today is December 6th, so I will no longer report you as part of my employment force on this month. So hindi na kita babayaran, hindi na rin kita kakaltasan. So ano mangyari sa'yo?
Ano po, pwede pa rin po namang, it depends to the person po kung babayaran niya. Pero parang minimum months po kasi is 120 months para maging eligible sa benefits po ng SSS.
That is correct, but the 120 months, that is on eligibility on pension. Sa pension na yun. Dito muna tayo sa employee. You are correct na it's up to the employee whether to continue his or her membership with the SSS. Sayang kasi na may butal. Like for example, si Richelle ngayon hanggang December lang siya. Ano mangyari sa kanya sa January? Wala siyang employment. Sayang, may pera siya. Pwede niya pagpatuloy yun as voluntary member para walang butal. Kasi ang nangyari po dito, the computation, sabi ni Richelle nga, 120 months. The computation of whatever benefits that you will earn from SSS is based on monthly contribution. And take note that under SSS law, there would be no retroactive payment of missed contributions. In other words, si Richelle walang trabaho ng January. pahinga siya ng February, ng March, nakatrabaho siya ngayon ng April, hindi po pwede babayaran ni Rochelle or ng kanyang employer yung January, February, March. That would defeat the very purpose. So ngayon, pag nag-retire na si Rochelle later on, then ang kukomputin po yung months na naghulog po siya. It's not on the number of years. Kaya nga sabi niya kanina, 120 months. So that's the thing about employee terminated from work but opted to continue her payment of SSS premiums. Wala nang kinalaman ang employer. Now, how about yung sa self-employed? Self-employed ka ngayon, Rochelle. So may business ka, may business ka, catering business, and then palagay na natin pandemic, wala kang income ngayon. Pwede mo bang ihinto ang contribution mo sa SSS or required ka ba? Ano sa tingin mo?
Pwede pong ihinto since ang self-employed po is, di ba po, voluntary lang po. It depends to them kung magbabayad sila or hindi.
And then, kailan mo ibalik?
Kapag gusto mo or kapag may income ka na or may pangbayad ka na sa SSS po.
That is very correct, Rochelle. Rochelle, this is our last meeting. Please don't leave us, okay? Thank you very much. Just stay there, no? Sige, ano lang, nandyan ka lang. Thank you very much for that, no? Good explanation. Kailang nauuna yung kaba. Hindi. Tama naman po yun yung ganyan, no? Na self-employed member, nasa sayo po yun, voluntary. And of course, pag okay na na-pick up na yung business mo, bayad ka na naman. But again, the rule, hindi po pwede, Rachel, na bayaran mo yung mga backlog mo or back payments rather. That is not the case. You have to pay monthly. And the missed premiums payment should not be paid through tawag nito, back payments. That is on section 11 and 11A. Now, anong mangyayari sa separation? We have discussed this, no? Na, well, pag separated ka, pwede mo yan ipagpatuloy. Ganun din po yung sa self-employed. Under SSS law, ito na mention ni Ms. Alcanzo kanina, there are basically two types of retirement benefit. No? Dalawang klase yung retirement benefit. Yung una po is yung tinatawag natin na monthly pension. Yung isa naman, yung lump sum payment. Anong pinagkakaiba ng dalawa? What is the difference between the two? And who is entitled to monthly pension and who is not? And instead entitled to lump sum payment. Let's call on Jenny.
Yung difference po nung sa monthly and lump sum. Pag monthly po, regular na every month meron kang matatanggap. Pag lump sum naman po, sa dulo na po siya.
Sa dulo na siya o sa simula?
Sorry. Sa isang bagsakan po kasi yung lump sum.
Jenny, so sino ang entitled sa, you are talking about the mode of payment, no? So monthly pension, by the word, monthly ang binibigay. Lump sum, isang bagsakan lang, as your words. Pero pag member ako ng SSS, when can I avail of monthly pension and when can I avail of the lump sum payment?
Pag sa monthly pension po, sa benefit paid to a retiree who has paid at least yung sinabi po kanina na 120 months contribution po. Yun po yung mga entitled sa monthly pension. Tapos yung sa lump sum amount naman po, pag yung may butal po na hindi sila nabayaran, sila po yung entitled sa lump sum.
So you are correct. So monthly pension, dapat nakabayad ka. You have paid at least 120 monthly contribution. So roughly, kung imagine mo, no, if you convert that into year, 10 years ka dapat maging member sa SSS bago ka mag-retire. Okay, or bago ka mag-entitled sa pension, because you cannot be entitled to a monthly pension unless you retire. Sa lump sum naman, what if you are part of an SSS? Member ka ng SSS, pero hindi ka nakaabot ng 120 monthly contribution. What would happen to your contributions? hindi mo na ba matanggap? It's because you failed to comply with the 120-month requirement? The answer is no. You will be given a lump sum amount. No? And the lump sum amount is equal to the total contribution made by a member plus interest. So ito yung ibabalik sa'yo. Parang baga, nagde-deposit ka lang, and then at the end of a certain period, ibalik yan sa'yo plus interest. That is on a lump sum and a benefit. So we have here some requirements, at least 60 years old or 55, depending on the if you are in a mine worker, if you are a mine worker, we have optional retirement and so on. So I hold you responsible for things. Section 12 Beltran for a while. Okay. Section 12 talks about monthly pension, and I have already summarized the provisions for your easy reference, no? And for simple presentation. So you have here a summary. What is the computation or how monthly pension is computed? So there are three formulae or formulas used to compute this pension. We have number 1, we have number 2, and we have number 3. And all of those three, number 1 is usually used because it results to a highest pension. The law says that any of the three formulas or formulae could be used, but that formula which would yield to the highest pension would be applied. And practical application, it is always in number 1. So what is number 1? So this is how your monthly pension is computed or consists of. First, 300 pesos plus 20% of your average monthly salary credit. No? It's not your salary, but monthly salary credit, the average wage, plus 2% of each for each credited year of service in excess of 10 years. So 10 years, i-minus mo yan kung ilang years ka sa service and multiplied by 2% plus the 1,000 peso additional as provided for by this law. This is a new provision introduced by this law. No. So how are we going to compute this? No? Of course, we have number 2, 40% of the average AMs is C plus 1,000. And we have number 3. As I said, out of these three situations, number 1 is usually used. So let's have an example. I would like you to check on this because I believe that there will be some or similar questions in your final departmental exam. No? So how would you compute the SSS monthly pension of a person? So we have here facts. Senior citizen 1 is earning 30,000 and has contributed for 40 years with SSS. According to his current SSS contribution table, his AMSC is 20,000. Later on, there is a formula how to arrive with this AMSC. But for simplicity, SSS has also provided a table para mas mabilis na. But again, papakita lang natin mamaya, we'll just show you how this AMSC is reached. So we have here. So going back to the formula, that is the formula, monthly pension is equal to or equals 300 plus 20% of AMSC plus 2% of AMSC times 30 years. Remember, 30 years because facts natin po, 40 years po siya, less than less 10 makes it 30 plus 1,000. So by substitution, we have 300 times 20 times 20,000 plus 0.02 times 20,000 times 30 plus 1,000. So again, by substitution, you would come up with a monthly pension of 17,300. So that would be Juan's monthly pension. And question, Jenny, palagay natin na nag-retire na si Juan. Hanggang kailan niya matatanggap yung 17,300 niya na pension? Sa tingin mo lang.
Sir, paulit po, pag nag-retire na si Juan.
Wala, si Juan. Oo, nag-retire na si Juan. Kinumpute na natin yung kanyang monthly pension. Juan has retired and we have computed his monthly SSS pension, which is 17,300. The question is, up to when will Juan receive his monthly pension?
Hanggang ma-accumulate po lahat ng binayaran niya po.
So may hangganan.
Opo.
Opo. May hangganan. Lahat may hangganan.
Opo.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Jenny. I will go back to that question later. But we have here, take note that the maximum salary credit to be used as basis of computing monthly SSS contribution is 25,000. This holds true especially for self-employed individuals. Sometimes self-employed individuals will report their income as, let's say, 50,000 a month. So in that situation, the law provides that in case of self-employed member receiving a monthly income of more than 25,000, like 30,000, 50,000, the law still says that the basis of computing the monthly SSS contribution would be 25,000. As I said earlier, this is how you would come up with your EMSC. While SSS law provides a table for AC application. So I will leave you this formula, dividing the sum of the last 60 monthly salary credits divided by 60. So we have here, what is the maximum? Actually, I have included some. If you look at your PowerPoint there, some of these are introduced recently because I feel that this will be part of the test, your final exam. So I deem it proper to incorporate it here. Computation of SSS pension, as I said, is based on monthly salary credit and the number of years of your contribution. So we have here, the higher your MSC and the longer you pay your contribution, the higher is your monthly pension will be. But in practice and under the law, retirees in the Philippines can receive as much as 18,495 pesos as the maximum monthly pension and 2,000 as the minimum. Earlier, I mentioned to Jenny, when is the last period, the date na matapos po yung kanyang pension. Actually, habang buhay siya, matatanggap yan yung kanyang pension. At even pag namatay na yung member, ang makakatanggap po doon ang kanyang primary beneficiaries. Primary beneficiary, usually if I am the member, then that would be my wife. And if I have also children, which are dependents, later on, the law defines who are considered as dependents of a member of an SSS. Not all children are dependents. So there is this list. So we have, again, if you are a member of an SSS, you retire, of course, you will be entitled to a pension. And when you die, what would happen to your pension? Your primary beneficiary will be entitled to what you have received. Okay, 100% of that. That would be his monthly pension or her monthly pension plus the dependents. The SSS, ang asawa, the surviving heir will now report to the SSS who are dependents left by the deceased member of an SSS. So ngayon, pag entitled po yan siya, pag qualified siya rather, then he would be or they would be entitled to an additional benefit that is dependence pension. Take note, kailangan monthly pension. Anong pinagkakaiba dun sa dependent? Monthly pension is the pension of a member when he dies goes to his primary beneficiaries. Now, if he has children which are considered dependents under the law, they'll be entitled to a dependence pension. So what is dependence pension? Paano po ito? Sinong entitled dito? Let's call on Angel.
Sa dependence pension po, sir, ang pagkakagets ko po dito, yung entitled po dito is, yung entitled po dito is yung mga anak po nung nagbayad po. Entitled po sila at least monthly pension po. Yun po. Yun po, sir.
Sinong nandyan?
Yung pusa ko po, sir, makulit.
Parehas tayo. May pusa din ako, dalawa, nasa labas. Ang pangalan nila si Lance at saka si R1. Diba? And then, ganun tayo. So, nakakawala yun sa stress. Minsan stressful din, but just 1 minute, 5:30, umaga, nagmamiyaw-miyaw na. Sabi ko, oh man, but ano ka pala, fur girl. Ako, cat dad ako eh. But anyway, you are correct with the help of your pet. That is correct. Then, dependent po, child. Take note. Pero may limit po yun. Hindi lahat ng anak na considered, if they're even qualified as dependent, as described or defined by law, there is a limit to 5. And take note, pag marami yan sila, may legitimate, may illegitimate, mayroon pang legitimated, pinaprioritize ng batas ang legitimate. Ano pa pinagkakaiba ng legitimate, illegitimate, at saka legitimated? May idea ka, Angel?
Sir, yung, alam ko po, sir, yung legitimate po is, anak po siya sa parang anak po siya ng nanay mo ngayon, pati tatay mo. Yung illegitimate naman po is, anak po sa labas, yung third party po ng tatay mo or nanay niyo po, sir. Yun po.
Ang legitimated?
Ang legitimated po is, yun po yung mismong may apelido po nung nagbayad po nung pension po.
Okay, Angel, nice try. But yeah, actually, pag sinabi mong legit, this is not really part of our discussion. No, this is part of obligation and contracts. No, but anyway, pag sinabi mo kasing, when can we say that a person is legitimate, illegitimate, or legitimated? The test there is when that person was born, whether or not inside the marriage. If it is born outside the marriage, that is illegitimate. If it is born within the marriage, that is legitimate. Mr. A and Miss B are lovers. Nabuntis si Miss B. Nanganak. Pagpanganak, hindi sila kasal. Kahit pa single silang dalawa, illegitimate ang bata because the child was born not inside the marriage. But if, for example, si Miss B nabuntis, and then bago nanganak, nagpakasal, that child is legitimate. Okay. Si Miss B nabuntis, hindi pinakasalan ng anak. Pero pagkatapos na-realize for whatever reason, pinakasalan, the boy or that child is legitimated. Ganon po yun. So the test really there is whether or not the child is born within marriage. Pero tama si Angel yung sinabi niyan. What if married na ako? Ako married ako. May anak po ako sa labas. Well, of course, that child is illegitimate because there is no reason for me na na pakasalan yung mama kasi kasal po ako ngayon. Anyway, dinidiscuss lang natin yan because the law prioritizes or prefers a legitimate son or child when it comes to giving of dependents pension. Now, sino daw yung mga dependents? Pakibasa daw, Angel.
Who are the dependents? Legitimate, legitimated, legally adopted, an illegitimate child who is unmarried, not gainfully employed, and has not reached 21
gainfully. Gainfully.
Thank you, sir. Not gainfully employed and has not reached 21 years of age, or if over 21 years old, he or she is congenitally
Wala na si Angel. Ano na?
Ay, sorry po, sir.
Sinira na ng pusa.
Napindot. Has not reached 21 years of age, or if over 21 years old, he or she is congenitally incapacitated, or while she is still a minor, was permanently incapacitated and incapable of self-support physically or mentally.
Thank you very much. I'll take it from here. So we have dependent. So ang anak dependent po yan siya pag, number 1, unmarried and not gainfully employed. Not reached 21, ngayon 18 na, or even 18. Pinababa na ngayon yan eh. But there is this incapacity, whether physical or mental, and is not able to support himself or herself, then he is a dependent. So I'll just leave that to you, no? So yun po yung mga dependents natin. Take note, 5 lang po, no? May limit po yun sa mga anak. 5 lang po ang pwedeng mag-avail. Now, ang tanong, hanggang kailan? For example, Mr. A is a member of an SSS. He died, he retired, and then received his pension, and then he died. We know that the pension, the monthly pension, will go to his primary beneficiary. And we know further that children who are considered as dependents are entitled to a dependence pension up to maximum of 5, and the preference there are legitimate children or child. Ang tanong, hanggang kailan ba pwede entitled ang dependent ng pension? Anong sabi ng batas? Sabi po dito, mahihinto lang yan pag namatay yung bata na yon or dependent na yon, or he reaches 21 years old, except lang if he has this mental or physical illness, gainfully employed, and if marries. Or 18 siya, nag-enter into a common law relationship, and umabot na siya sa 18 and so on. So yun po yung mga time na hindi ka na entitled. Minsan, ang nangyayari, hindi nire-report. No? Alam mo na, kasi pera yun, hindi nire-report ng mudra or ikaw mismo. But the SSS has the way of knowing it. Of course, it is just by for example, age. No? So yun po yung sistema dito. So we have discussed already retirement benefits, going back to Ms. Alcanzo kanina, 120 monthly contributions. Lahat po yan, na-discuss na natin yan kanina. 65. Ano tong tinatawag nating death benefits? Nandiyan ba si Cadelinia Aliza?
Yes, sir. Hello po.
Hi, good evening. Ma'am, wala ka ng recitation 2, wala ka ng recitation 3.
Sorry po.
Okay lang.
Hindi po
Oo, namimiss ka namin talaga. Naiiyak ako ngayon, naiito ka.
Miss ko din po kayo, sir.
Nga, talagang last meeting talaga. Sabi ko, sana pupunta po si Ashley Ngayon ang tanong, Ashley, masaklap man sabihin pero ang topic na punta sa'yo, death benefits. Ano po ito?
Yung death benefits po, sir, is once po na namatay yung member ng SSS is meron pong matatanggap na death benefits yung kanyang family po or yung primary po na beneficiary niya.
That is very correct. Pero kanina, pag entitled ka sa pension, dapat 120 days, not days, 120 months ang contribution mo. How about sa death benefit? When will you be qualified to receive? When will be a member qualified to receive death benefit when he dies?
For death benefits po, sir, it's at least 36 monthly contributions po prior to the death of the member.
What if
SSS.
hindi, what if nag-contribute siya, hindi umabot ng 36, namatay na siya? May matanggap pa ba siya? Kung may matanggap siya, ano?
Yes po, sir. If hindi po umabot sa 36 monthly contributions, then his primary or secondary beneficiaries po, entitled pa rin po sila ng lump sum benefit po, which is equivalent po sa monthly pension times the number of monthly contributions na nabayaran niya sa SSS.
Thank
Or
you. Yes, continue.
po sa 12, or equivalent po sa 12 times the monthly pension kung
Kung
asan po yung
saan
mas
ang
mataas.
mataas. Talagang bumabawi si Miss Cadilenia. Yun talaga, di ba? Ang dali lang sana. Tapos nandyan ka na sa gilid, mag-relax ka lang, huwag kang alis, just listen to us. O, ang laki ng score mo ngayon. Okay, so that is correct. Death benefits. Alam po natin to. This is very practical. No? Ang importante lang dito, sino? May kliyente po ako, dalawa sila mag-asawa, away sila, ako po. Diba? I have shared this to you. Nang-asawa siya sa Biliran Leyte, tapos naghiwalay sila ng teacher 12 years, nandito na siya ngayon sa Katmon, nagkaasawa ulit. I don't know what happened, but he was able to secure a Sinomar and then were able to get married. Mala siya, namatay siya sa barko, and then ang laki ng kita. Ay, may death benefits pa. Away ang mag-asawa, ang dalawang asawa, sa akin yan, sa akin. Ganon. So sabi nila na ganito daw. But anyway, mahirap po yung mga ganyang mga. So the law here provides it so far as payment. So later, another issue kung sino bang entitled doon. No? Let's leave that as later on. So that is on death benefits. Thank you, Ms. Cadilenia.
Thank you po.
Ano naman itong permanent disability benefits? Nandyan ba si Katabay? Wala. Anton? Wala. De la Serna, this is IS. De la Vega, IS. Diaz? Wala. Mark? Wala. Dugan? Wala. Ito yung sadly talaga, no? Ito yung class na maraming MOL na hindi pumapasok. Nakasakit sa damdamin. Hindi. Naintindihan natin yan. Pero, of course, I have to do also my task, no? Parang ganun. Emma? Wala. Angelica? Wala. Fermin? Wala. Yasmin? Yasmin? Wala. Yes, thank you for coming, Christine. Okay, Bungkawil?
Yes po, sir. Sir, hindi niyo po ako tinawag kanina.
Yun nga kasi nakalagay dito IS. Pasensya na.
Opo.
Don't worry, pagkatapos nito tatawagin kita ulit. Biro lang. Actually, since wala namang iba, so ako na lang magdi-discuss mamaya para maaga po tayo. Okay, permanent disability benefits. Ano po ito?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, permanent disability po, ito po yung mga persons or employees na nag-occur ng disability. Like for example po, naputulan ng kamay during work operations. Yung disability po na hindi na pwedeng maayos or like ma-recover from medical reasons.
So, entitled ba siya ng benefit?
Yes po, sir. Entitled po sila ng benefits. Tapos, meron pong
Ano yung requirement?
The employee must have paid at least 36 monthly contributions po to the SSS bago po mag-occur yung disability niya.
So more or less similar doon sa anong benefit yung kanina?
Sa death benefits po, sorry po.
Yes, more or less similar po yung kanilang requirements. Kaya lang dito, medyo swinerte to siya, nabuhay pa, no? Sorry, buhay siya. But of course, there is this permanent disability. And permanent disability here, ito po yung mga ano po yun, no? Monthly pension shall be suspended. You are correct in letter A. So anong forever ba yung permanent disability or mayroon bang requirement ang SSS na from time to time i-check ka? Anong sabi ng letter B?
Dapat po meron at least once a year na examination para that could notice the SSS po if pwede ka na ulit mag-resume for the SSS contributions po or pension.
Hindi, kung pwede ka na ulit magtrabaho. Kasi yung permanent disability benefits hanggang hindi ka makapagtrabaho. No, may limit po to, hindi to forever. So, magbibigyan ka. So, pahinga ka muna and then may sweldo ka. Kasi ina-advance yun siya ng employer and manggagaling yan sa SSS. Now, may mga iba kasi na pwede na magtrabaho pero alam mo na, madiskarte. Kaya nga later on, we would know that there are crimes. So this is a violation of the law and it's a criminal offense if you falsify things, including medical certificate. May kakonsabo kang doktor na parang ganun yung sasabihin so that he will issue a certification that you are still unable to work, no, permanently. So mangyari po dito, to avoid that, under section 13-A paragraph B, SSS may require you, no, to present yourself for examination once a year to determine whether or not you are fit for reemployment or, in other words, to resume your business or undertaking as self-employed. Otherwise, if you refuse, then the permanent disability benefit will be suspended. Okay, so that is on sandali. Christine, thank you. Ito po yung mga following disabilities shall be deemed permanent. No? Complete loss of eyesight. Hindi na natin ito i-discuss, no? Kasi parang masaklap. But, you know, these are compensated. No? Loss of eyesight of both eyes. No? Usually sa manufacturing or loss of two limbs at or above the ankle or wrists. No? Mga po ito, permanent complete paralysis of two limbs, etc. Ito po yun, related sa work po. And kung mga putol-putol naman ng mga limbs, mayroon ding number of months that you will be entitled. No? One thumb, 10, yan, mamili ka, one arm, 50, so on and so forth. This is based on the table under the law. So, ang punto lang natin dito, our point here is that if this disability occurs to a member of an SSS in line of work, then he would be compensated based on a number of months indicated here. pupunta na tayo, namatay na siya, di ba? So, ang sunod is ililibing na. Ano naman to yung Chris?
Hello po, sir. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Chris, how are you? May miss ka namin.
Sir, di naman ako mawawala.
Go ahead. Ano na?
Sir, ano pong gagawin ko po?
What is funeral benefit?
Sir,
Sorry, hindi mo narinig. Sabi, mamimiss ka namin. What is funeral benefit?
so a funeral benefit grant or is equivalent to 12,000 pesos po. She shall be paid in cash or in kind to help defray the cost of funeral expenses upon the death of a member, including permanently totally disabled member or retiree po.
So, ano ibig sabihin?
Sir, kailangan magbayad po para po may makuha yung namatay.
Kailangan magbayad para may makuha ang namatay.
Joke lang po, sir. Grant po pala yun, sir.
Ibig sabihin, apart from the death benefit, since patay na nga yung member, sad to say, namatay siya, he is entitled, not he, but the beneficiary would be, in addition to the death benefit, entitled to a funeral benefit, which is 12,000. Yun po yung sabi po dito. And ano po, how about this sickness benefit? Kailan ka maka-avail ng sickness benefit? Same question, same to you. Ikaw pa din, Miss Guillermo?
Sir, wait lang po.
Sige, yan.
Sir, not sure po, pero nakalagay po dito is for kapag na-confined na po and for more than 3 days in a hospital.
Okay, you continue explaining. Number one, sino ba ang entitled sa sickness benefit? Paano siya maging entitled? At ano ang kanyang requirements para siya ma-entitled?
Sir, yung person po na entitled to have this sickness benefit are those people who at least who paid at least 3 months or 3 monthly contribution in the 12 months period immediately preceding the semester of sickness po.
Meaning, yes. So,
Kailangan, sir, naguhulog na po siya, continuously naguhulog na po siya for 3 consecutive months bago po siya maging bago niya po ma-avail yung sickness benefit. Unless kapag hindi po siya naghuhulog, hindi po siya granted na magkaroon ng benefit po.
So in other words, 3 months bago nangyari yun sa kanya sa taon na yun, nakabayad na po siya. And take note here that it must be more than
3 days po, sir.
3 days sa hospital or elsewhere. May limit ba pag ilang araw siya sa hospital? Mayroon sa kabilang slide. Ang tanong, ano po yung entitlement niya? Palagay natin sa 4 na araw na hindi siya nakapagtrabaho dahil nagkasakit siya. Magkano yung makukuha niya?
Sir, 90% po ba nung compensable?
That is correct. So kung ano yung average daily salary credit niya, 90% yung makukuha niya pag nagkasakit siya more than 3 days, either na confined or elsewhere. For as long as I said again, and you mentioned na nakabayad na siya ng 3 monthly contributions in that year prior to his sickness na natanggap. And then, thank you, Miss Guillermo. Ano naman yung sabi dito? Thank you. Ano naman yung sabi dito, Jimenez? Francisca Moreno. Is Carissa around? Shaira? Perez? Kiring? Are you reciting? Wala? Attendance lang to? Rasul?
Hello, sir.
Hello,
Yes.
sir.
Oh,
Ay,
ano na mangyari?
O, si Kiring po muna.
sige.
Anong gusto niyo mangyari?
Sige po, sir. Sir na lang po. Nagloko po kasi yung yung headset ko po kanina.
Sige, ako na lang. Para sunod na kayo. Earlier mentioned by Chris and Guillermo is that in order for you to, as member of an SSS, be qualified for sickness benefit, your sickness must be more than 3 days. But it is not beyond 120 days in 1 year. So hanggang 120 days lang, kung sobra dyan, ang bayad lang sa iyo is, we have here, under item 2, the sickness benefit shall not be paid more than 240 days on account of the same confinement. So if it is the same reason, same confinement, and for a same year, then you will be paid only not more than 240 days, computed 90% of your average salary credit. And take note also in item number 3 that as a requirement, you must notify your employer of your sickness. Kailangan po yun. Maternity leave benefits, we have discussed this in our previous discussion or lecture on labor standards. Non-transferability of benefits talks about you cannot transfer whatever benefits you may avail of under SSS. SSS membership is personal and therefore it could not be transferred. Exemption from taxes, legal process, and lien talks about that the assets and properties of SSS, including those money contributed and collected, remitted by employers, are not subject to all and any kind of tax, assessment, fee. So yun po yung sabi dito. And in the event that a tax assessment is issued against SSS, that should be regarded as null and void. So here, as I said kanina, when you are member of an SSS, you have your own contribution as an employee, and the employer has also his share of the premiums. We have here, kailan dapat ibigay ang employee's contribution? Kiring?
Hello po. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Dito po nakalagay po, beginning on the last day of the calendar month.
Meaning,
When, yung pag magsasahod na po, sir.
yes, that's correct. So,
Yes.
kailan magsahod? Di ba, we know that sa sahod, sa isang buwan, the labor law provides that it should be paid at least twice a month with the interval of not more than 16 days. So, ang sabi po dito sa pangalawang,
Ito po, the employer shall deduct and withhold from such employee's monthly salary, wage compensation, or earnings.
that is correct. So, as I said, tama ka kanina, reiterate ko lang that it should be deducted not on the 15th if the sweldo, if the payment of the salary is on the 15th and the 30th, but on the 30th, no? Beginning on the last day of the calendar month, that would be the time when the employer is required to withhold a portion of an employee's salary to form part of his premiums contribution with the SSS. How about sa employer naman? Kailan po dapat ang kaniyang share sa kaniyang contribution sa SSS? Same, Mr. Kiring?
Yes po, sir. Para ano po, less hassle po pag magpa-file po sa SSS po.
So kailan dapat magbigay? Alam natin kanina na pag empleyado ka, ako yung boss mo, ako po yung employer mo, ikaw empleyado kita. Pag sweldo mo sa katapusan, dapat kakaltasan na kita. And i-remit ko yan eventually sa SSS. Ako naman as employer, kailan ako magbigay ng contribution ko as share mo, as share ko sa SSS premiums mo?
Sa ano po, sir? Sabay rin po, sir.
Sabay.
Beginning on the last day of the month.
Sabay din po. Okay. And then, in order na that's correct, in order na patunayan na withhold po ako, ang remittance po supported by a quarterly collection list. How much is the contribution of an SSS? So we know in our discussion earlier na ang employees' premiums consist of two parts, his share and that of his employer. So we have here the entire premiums is 13% of the sweldo. We have here. How would you calculate SSS contribution? The current contribution with the SSS is 13%. Take note sa exam, 13% of the monthly salary, as we have said, not exceeding 25,000. And this should be shared by the employer and the employee. Employer share would be 8.50 or 0.5%, while the employee is 4.5%. So as illustration, we have here, if you are receiving 10,000, then your monthly contribution, 13% of that is 1,310. Then, as we know, it should be divided or it should be shared by the employee and the employer. The 4.5% employee share would amount to 450 pesos, whereas the 8.5% share of the employer would be 860 pesos. So I am this is a simple mathematical illustration, but I would like you to take note of this. I would say that perhaps there are questions that would be coming or would come out in your departmental final exam on this. So at least you have the idea. Contribution of self-employed, we have discussed that should be based on her declaration. So, kung ano man yung sinabi niya na income, if you are self-employed and you declare that this much is your monthly income, then that would be the basis of your computation of SSS premiums, and that would be as is and will never change unless you would declare another amount. Okay, yun po yung sabi natin dito. But kanina, sinabi nga natin na hindi po yan siya mag-exceed ng 25,000. Even if you declare an amount beyond 25,000, still the computation on premiums is 25,000. Kailan i-remit ang contribution? Kanina, si Mr. Kiring, ang sabi po dito, ang sabi niya kanina is that it is deducted on the last salary or the last month, last P day of an employee, and at the same time, the employer will make his contributions share. Now, ang tanong in section 22, when will the employer make remittance of these contributions collected to the SSS? Rasul?
Hello, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening po. For dito po sa section 22, it pertains to yung may employer-employee relationship. Ano po, i-remit nila sa SSS within first 10 days of each calendar month, following the month for which they are applicable within such time po sa commission. Tapos po dito po sa section 22-A, sa self-employed naman po, ito naman po quarterly, based dun sa monthly contribution nila.
Okay, so do you know what would happen if they fail to, particularly in letter A, if the employer failed to make a remittance within 10 days of the calendar month?
Po, yung tanong niyo po kung hindi sila makapag-remit within the first 10
days. Lang, sa idea mo lang, although it will be discussed later on, mayroon ba silang kasalanan? Mayroon ba silang paglabag? Is there a violation in the event that they have collected the premium from the employee, yet the employer failed to remit that within 10 days, first 10 days of the calendar month?
Opo ata, sir. May nabasa po kasi ako pag po hindi nag-report si employer nung about dun sa employee niya, parang may babayaran siyang damages.
Okay, that's correct. And criminally liable po yun siya. Kasi pera yun ng gobyerno, pera yun ng empleyado, hindi niya ni-remit. Okay, thank you, Ms. Rasul. Regards kay Mama. Ang saya ng family mo, no? Makapagsabi ang malutong.
Lutong. Ang ingay talaga.
Lutong na lutong talaga, no? Parang ano po, chicharon. Anyway, recorded po tayo. Thank you, Mr. Sol. Okay lang. Ganun talaga yan. Buhay. So, employment records, employment records, each employer shall immediately report to SSS. This is in relation kanina sa first person na tawag, no, na kailangan on the first day of employment may records na po sila. And then, is-apply nila yan sa employee. Kaya nga mayroon sila tinatawag na alpha list of employees, no? So, there's a name, the list of employees for a particular period to be reported to the SSS. Ito yung mga cases na violation, no? Malapit na po tayo dito sa first law sa SSS. Ito yung mga violation, no? Penal clause, meaning these are the sanctions which consist of fines and imprisonment in the event that there are violations of the provisions of this law. So we have here, first, false statement or representation. Paano ba ito nangyayari? In your own creative mind or experience, how would you apply letter A here? It says here that whenever there is a false statement or representation, paano itong nangyayari at bakit? Ano po to? Could you explain this? Razon? Erica Reyes?
Sir.
Yes.
False representation po yung parang nagbigay ka ng maling information sa SSS. For example, yung sinasabi niyo, sir, na pag hindi na siya 18 years old, tas parang hindi ni-report sa ano. Ganun po.
Pero yung letter A, anong nire-refer dito na matter?
Yung material of fact po.
Anong
Full
nire-refer
statement
na
of a
matter?
material of fact.
Full statement of what?
Of a material fact po.
Pertaining to what?
Pertaining po sa any claim or benefit.
Section 28, paragraph A usually occurs when there is a false representation on the compensation paid or received by an employee. Sometimes an employee will not allow or will request its or his employer not to deduct the SSS premiums. I have a client who asked me, attorney, I have manufacturing company. I have employees that they don't want deduction from their salaries representing SSS premiums. Ayaw nila. So paano po yun? The answer is hindi po pwede because the mandate is not to them, but the mandate is for the employers to make such deduction. Others naman ang ginagawa nila, nililiitan nila yung sweldo. Binababaan nila yung sweldo para mababa din yung, what do you call this one? Ang premiums. Others naman, for purposes of applying for an SSS loan, connive with the employer. I-declare mo nga dyan, Reyes, na ang sweldo ko ganito kataas so that pag-apply ng loan, times 3, o ganon yung loan. So if this is found out, then you will be liable for falsification. And falsification is a criminal offense punishable by 6 months and 1 day to 6 years. Could you imagine you're applying for a loan and then you submitted documents which statements which are not true? Take note here, this document, the document itself is true, no? But the contents are not true. Okay, iba naman po yung mga peke na dokumento, di ba? Po ito naman kasi, isa naman talaga, pero iba yung nilalaman doon. That is on letter A. How about letter B? Ano nangyari dito? Ano po yung kasalanan dito? What is the act punishable here in letter B? Same last question for you, Erica.
Sir, yung mga nakatanggap ng pera without, na hindi naman entitled tumanggap ng pera.
For example?
Sir, yung example ko po kanina.
Na
yung hindi ka na, yung for example po yung sa parang sa 18 years old, yung mga ganun po. Yung hindi ka na tumatanggap. Pero tumatanggap ka pa din.
Okay, so you're referring to earlier illustration that you are a dependent, yet you are no longer dependent and still you receive money as dependence pension. Am I correct?
Opo, sir.
Okay. Are you busy? Are you hurrying up? Are you going somewhere?
Hindi po, sir. Kinakabahan po ako.
That's good. That's good. It's normal. Hindi naman tayo wala naman tayong tinithreaten or something. Ganun lang yan. You are correct, Erica. So, another example there is that sa mga alam niyo ba yung kadalasan nangyayari? That's why sa SSS, they require now confirmation of the SPA. Dati, under the law, since SPA is a special power of attorney, there is no expiration date for as long as the principal, the one that gives an authority, is alive, and also the agent, the one who receives an authority, is alive, the SPA is valid. However, because of this principle, ang iba ginagawa nila, patay na si Lola, tapos si Apo yung binigyan ng SPA, will not report the death of the grandmother Okay? Kasi siya yung may SPA na pupunta sa SSS, kukuha. Buti ngayon, online na, di ba? So, papasok na yun sa ATM ni Lola or whatnot, no? But before, grabe, cheque or something. So because of that, if you are not entitled to receive, yet you receive that thing, you will be liable. Also, there are instances that some employees of the SSS are guilty of this. Alam nila na yung walang nag-claim dito, entitled siya. Then they will falsify things na ito, papalabas natin ng ganito para maklaim niya. There were cases before na ganun ang nangyayari. Mr. X is an employee of an SSS. He is also a reviewing person and he noticed that, ay, walang nag-claim nito, sayang. So they fabricate documents and then sila-sila lang yung tumatanggap. That is not allowed. Okay? Of course, that is a straightforward violation of this law. Thank you, Ms. Erica, for that. Don't leave, please. Let's continue. Of course, the letter C is on selling things which are not supposed to be sold. Same is true here with letter D. Letter G here is that this pertains to an employee of an SSS who receives money, but that money is not intended for her. Probably it is only for her custody. And then, ang nangyari po, ginamit niya. That is misappropriation of public funds, because that is a public office, SSS, the money is that of the government. If you are a cashier, for example, and then you receive money because of your position, then you will be liable, malversation of public funds, if you spend that for your own personal gains. Another kanina, going back sa example natin kanina, it was probably si Mr. Metan na may violation po. And also in relation sa sinabi ko kanina, tanong ko kay Ms. Razul, that an employer who after deducting monthly contribution fails to remit said contribution to the SSS will be liable. Okay, they will be liable because there is a presumption that they have misappropriated the contributions. Take note that this law on SSS is a special law. Good faith is not a defense here, meaning even if the employer will say, no, actually, ang pera nandyan, the money is there, we just failed to remit that on time because of this, because of that, the law will not listen to it, will not even entertain that excuse because it is a special law. The law says that you have to remit the moment you made some deductions within 10 calendar days of the month after you have made that deduction. Who will file a case? It could be an SSS employee or the SSS himself against an employer. Or if it is an member, who is involved is an SSS employee, then the SSS himself. Okay, so basically that is the gist of our discussion of SSS law. To recap, SSS law is a law, a social welfare law, meaning it gives protection to employees and members of SSS. So that when they are during employment, something happened to them in relation to their work, they have this protection under SSS, more particularly on pecuniary benefits. And also when they retire, they have pension, even if there is this disability or they die, there are benefits. Okay, so that is on SSS. Mandatory for private employees and for those self-employed under the enumeration that we discussed earlier. Okay, so that is on SSS. After this law, there are two more laws which based on our curriculum or rather course outline will be discussed in passing, meaning an overview of these particular laws. The first there is the central bank law. So here, since this is an overview, expect that we will not be dealing in detail as we have discussed with other laws. So central bank law. Ano po ito? Ano sa tingin mo yung mga batas about sa central bank? Reyes Nadine. Roque Christian.
Hello po, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening po.
Sayang, 2 beses ka wala, no? So,
Sorry, sir.
nandito tayo ngayon kasi last meeting. Salamat naman at nandito ka. Ano po yung sa tingin mo yung mga laws on central bank? Ano yung mga batas na to?
Ano po, yung central bank po, di ba po parang, yung sa own understanding ko po, siya po yung bank, parang central bank, siya yung nagre-regulate po ng monetary policies po ng buong bansa as well po as yung economy ng economy po ng bansa natin. So siguro po yung mga batas po na involved po dito is para pong more on po about sa pag-regulate po nung yun po yung mga monetary policy po nila ganun.
Pag-regulate, that's correct. And
Parang
ang nire-regulate nila is kadalasan, apart from, of course, sinabi mo kanina, sa pera ng pamahalaan, money of the government, it has also authority to regulate the activities of private banks. No? Yung mga lending companies, yung mga rates nila, lahat-lahat po yun. Covered po yan siya sa law on central bank. I will call you one more time later. So we have here, let's talk about history. First, the first Central Bank Act was passed in 1948. It was, I will do this in passing, no? This is just history by Elpidio Quirino in 1949, no? And the very essence here is that to promote economic development and of course to maintain monetary stability. Central bank kasi po yung nagde-determine whether or not stable pa, di ba? Nakikita mo naman si Duterte, may pera pa bang Pilipinas? Central bank po yun. Ang DBM, budget lang po yun. Siya nagpapatupad ng budget na nire-release or ina-approve ng batas. No? It is the Congress, both the House of Representatives and the House of Senate that would propose and approve the budget for each of the government offices of the government and signed with the president, it becomes a law. And the DBM will execute, implement that based on the budget that is fixed per department. But the money actually is, on money matters, it is the central bank who knows the standing of the Philippine government. Another law after this is Presidential Decree 1972, passed during the time of Marcos. No? It amended the first law, and again here it's to maintain domestic and international monetary stability. So it expands now. Kanina, parang nakikita mo domestic stability, this time monetary stability, another international stability. Then after that, we have Presidential Decree 8108. During the time also of Marcos. Here, it was specifically mentioned that the Central Bank of the Philippines is the Central Monetary Authority. As mentioned by Mr. Roque, ito po yung central, ito po yung center sa lahat ng kung perang pag-uusapan ng gobyerno, ito po yan siya ang may saklaw nun. Okay? And the next law there is Republic Act 7653, the new central bank during the time of Ramos. Dito mo makikita, this is the first time that the name Central Bank was changed into Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. They are the same, but una talaga is Central Bank of the Philippines. Pero ngayon, titingnan no, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas because it was changed to that in June of 1993. But basically, it has the same functions. Now, after that, by the way, ito po yung mga salient features ng batas. No? Ito po, maintain price stability as mentioned by Mr. Roque, and then implementing policy, deregulate how the bank institution operates in the Philippines, the rates of interest, etc. Sila po yung may saklaw nun. They supervise and they regulate the banks and quasi-banks, including those lending institutions. Sa lahat-lahat po yan. Mayroon nilang authority, particularly yung monetary board. So ito po yung mga, I'm including this kasi baka lalabas po to sa departmental exam nyo. Baka sabihin na hindi natin na-take up po yan siya. So these are other allied functions of the BSP. I will leave this to you. Now, the most important portion or part of our discussion on central bank is the monetary board. Ito po yun, alam natin, we mentioned this when we discussed AMLA, no? It is the monetary board. In fact, this is the board that orders the closure of banks in the event that these banks, particularly most often rather rural banks, no, cannot cater with the requirements of the depositors. So ito po yung monetary board. Monetary board is composed of 7 members. We have here appointed by the President of the Philippines. Who are these 7 members? First, the head of the BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, known as the governor. And he is the chairman of the monetary board. And the second member is a secretary of the government appointed by the president. And the rest are from the private sectors. 5 of them from the private sectors, which has a term of office of 6 years, except that a member of the cabinet that serves at the pleasure of the president. So, kabinete ka, i-appoint ka ni Duterte at this time, and then maging part ka ng central bank. Okay? Yun po, not central bank, maging part ka ng monetary board of the central bank. There are other departments also. I will hold you responsible for this. And this is the present law of the Philippines. No? It was passed in March of 2019, Republic Act 11211, during the time, of course, of Duterte. It strengthened the regulatory powers of the BSP. And some of these regulatory powers is that the BSP, as headed by the chairman, can now issue subpoena. When you say subpoena, that is an order requiring somebody, addressed to that someone, requiring him to produce the documents required by the bank, by the central bank. That is subpoena. And in the event that you will not comply with that subpoena, you could be punished for contempt. What would happen here is that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, through its chairman, will report to the court that you are not following the orders of the central bank, you are defying its order, and therefore you are your defiance is tantamount to a contemptible act. No? So pwede ka ma-declare into contempt. That is on the expansion powers of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Also, on matters of capitalization, the law increased it to 200 billion. So again, this is just a reiteration of the process, promoting financial stability, etc. Now, this is important. Section 2, which amends Section 3 of the old law, talks about the powers of the central bank, or rather Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, as the supervision over the operation of banks. And it has the power also to examine money service businesses, mga lending institutions, particularly on compliance of the requirements under AMLA. We know, we have discussed that already, and if they fail to comply with that, then they will be held liable. Yun po yung powers ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Monetary Board, take note, sa meetings nila once a week, and the Monetary Board could meet upon the call of the governor. Kung siya lang, pwede. Kung hindi siya, at least 2 members must call. And since there are 7 members of the Monetary Board, in order to constitute a quorum, there must be at least the presence of 4 members to transact the business of the day. Section 7. Can you still hear me, Christian?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so yeah. Thank you. So Section 7, this is in relation to the right of the the power rather of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to require person to produce the data that they need. However, this should also comply with the confidentiality requirement under our Secrecy of Bank Deposits and AMLA also. So in effect, if this does not violate the law, then the law on confidentiality of bank deposit or secrecy of bank deposit, then you have to comply with the requirement of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to produce that data. Okay, so that is on this. Ito yung sinabi kanina ni Christian na Bangko Sentral shall be the official depository of the government. Siya po yung lahat, nandun yung pera, lahat po sa gobyerno. That is our discussion on the overview of the Central Bank of the Philippines. Same with the funds of the SSS, the money of the Central Bank or the Bangko Sentral of Pilipinas is not subject to any of the taxes. Okay, so that is on the overview again of the laws on Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So it is the central monetary agency of the government. The most important body there is the Monetary Board. It regulates the operation of the banks, it issues closure of the banks, and it will issue also subpoena in the event that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas requires documents in aid of its function. Tanungin natin si Christian. Christian.
Yes po, sir.
Pag sinabi mong insurance code, ano sa tingin mo? Ano yung mga batas about sa insurance code?
Ano po, kasi po 'di ba yung insurance po, sir, para po kasi siyang protection against yung future, yung loss, parang future loss. Protection po siya for future loss due to parang hindi mo po inaasahang event, parang maganon po. So siguro po yung insurance law, sir, covered po niya yung insurer, yung nag-i-insure po or yung nag-a-apply po ng insurance, tsaka po yung insurer.
Insured.
Tsaka yung insurer.
Oh,
Insured,
yeah.
tsaka po insurer. Parang
At
ganun.
saka, correct. At saka probably kung sino yung pwede maging beneficiary. Tama ka, Christian, no? Thank you for that, no? So you are now spared. Please don't leave. Malapit na po tayo. Kunting ano na lang, kunting kimbot. Okay. So, insurance. By the word insurance, bakit ka nag-i-insure? Because may mga bagay na alam mo mangyari or kung hindi mo man alam mangyari at nakakasira ng gamit mo, ng buhay mo, or even portion of your body. Other countries, they insure their hair, their legs, no? Because they feel na ganun po yun. So same as here, insurance is a contract of indemnity. Meaning, if something happened on that thing, then ako na nag-i-insure or insured could be compensated by the insurer. Because we have a contract of insurance wherein nagbigay po ako ng premiums. Kagaya ng SSS kanina, nagbigay po ako ng premiums. Ano po itong premiums? Ito po yung binibigay, charge ng insurance company for a certain insurable amount. Bahay mo, bahay ni Christian, i-insure niya po ito from perils of fire, sa sunog, okay? Kasi po, insurance would depend on the nature of contingency that you are insuring against, no? Sa perils. So kagaya niyan, example ulit, bahay insured against fire for 2 million. Then the insurance company will charge Christian of the premium. How much Christian will pay monthly for a certain period such that if anything happened to that house caused by fire, then any damage within that insurable amount should be covered by the insurance. So yun po basically is the concept of insurance. Now, the insurance code here mentions how these insurance contracts, among others, would be construed. Who would be entitled as beneficiary? There are laws under our obligation in contract. There are provisions rather na you cannot make your paramour as your beneficiary. Ako, married po ako. I-insure ko yung life ko. Tapos gawin kong beneficiary yung girlfriend ko. May asawa po ako. Pwede ba yun? That is not allowed. That's against policy. Okay? Ganun mga sistema. Pero, what if in-insured ko in portion sa aking makukuha? Ginawa kong beneficiary ang anak ko dun sa girlfriend ko. Pwede ba yun? Sabi, pwede. Makikita natin yan mamaya, no? So, anyway, contract insurance under here, no? So, we have here, tama rin again si Christian, sinabi niya, insurance is based upon principle of aiding another from loss caused by unfortunate event. Diba? Hindi mo alam, so kailangan mo i-insure mo kasi hindi mo alam kung ano mangyari. Contract of insurance, as I said, it is a indemnity contract. I will hold you responsible for term falling under insurance business. Now, another important thing about this insurance contract are the characteristics. Just like sales, just like obligation and contracts, what are the characteristics of an insurance contract? First, consensual. We know this. It is entered into or perfected upon giving of consent, meeting of the minds. I don't have to ask you on this. Voluntary, meaning out of volition. It's not compulsory. It's not required. It's up to you. You will decide whether you will insure your property or not. Aleatory, because insurance, contract of insurance, or the payment of the insurable amount would come only if that contingent event takes place. Executed, because you have to pay premium in order for an insurance contract to be effective. And of course, it could not be executed or it could not be implemented until there is a loss. Conditional, because it is conditioned upon the happening of a certain event. That is when that property or goods is insured upon. Example, may-ari po ako ng property or may-ari po ako ng sasakyan. Ita-transport ko ng sasakyan. I will be transporting my vehicle from Davao to Manila. And I could insure that vehicle during transit. If something would happen to that vehicle, for example, because of shipwreck, nalunod, nalubog ang vessel, then that vehicle, since leaving Alesa, just like other contracts, a contract of insurance has similar elements with other contracts, and we know this with COC. We have consent, object, and cost or consideration. So in a contract of sale, other contracts, there is these three requirements. Similarly, it is present also in an insurance contract. And what is another additional element? We have insurable interests. Means that an insured possesses an interest. I will hold you responsible for the types of insurance company, either insurance contracts. Individual, life, no? It could be your own individual life, group, or industrial, the industry, the company, marine, fire, casualty, no? Accident. Now, is it really necessary for you to be an owner of property before you have that insured? Is it necessary for you to be the owner of the property before you have it insured? I am from Manila. I transported goods to Davao through a ship. The ship now, upon receipt of my goods, insured that to a company. During transport, calamity strikes the vessel and it sinks. Of course, the goods were destroyed. Now, the ship owner, the one that insured those goods, which I own, claims with the insurance company for the payment of the insured amount. The insurance company did not pay the shipping company, alleging that it is not the owner of those goods. What can you say about that? Who is correct? Saliba.
Sir, para po sa akin, kumbaga po kapag pumasok ka sa insurance contract, parehas po kayong may responsibility. So, ayun po, yung consent of the parties, which is kung yung insurer po, tsaka yung nag-insured. So, ayun nga po, yung tungkol dun sa ship po na nabanggit niyo po. So, parang ayun po yung object ng contract. Kumbaga po, ayun po yung parang, ayun po yung, kumbaga, ayun po yung nagmamatter dun sa ginawa pong agreement. So, para po sa akin, may responsibility po kayo sa isa't isa. So, kailangan niyo po magbigay ng consideration sa situation po ng bawat isa. Kasi kung ang pinag-uusapan po, lalo na kung insurance contract po.
Okay. So, ang tanong ko ngayon is that may karapatan ba ang shipping company to insure the goods it received, even if it is not the owner? My question again, has the shipping company right to insure these goods it received from others, even though it is not the owner of these goods? Pwede mo ba pa-insure yun? Kasi in-insure niya nga, tapos may nangyari, tapos siningil niya, sabi niya, hindi ka pwede magsingil. In the first place, hindi mo pwede i-insure yan, hindi ikaw yung may-ari. The question is, kailangan ba may-ari ka na isang bagay bago mo i-insure?
For me po, yes sir, kasi po pumasok sila sa contract. So, meron pong agreement, kumbaga, na ipinangahawakan po.
So, ang sabi po dito na pwede po yan siya ma-insure. Because even though hindi po may-ari yung barko, mayroon siyang insurable interest. And when you say insurable interest, the ship would be liable in the event that something happened to the goods in his possession or in its possession. So, pag nalubog yung barko, masira yung mga goods, hahabulin po siya ng may-ari. So, since he has insurable interest in those goods, pwede niya pa i-insure yun. And therefore, the insurance company is wrong there. You are correct because in the first place, there has been a contract entered into already. Otherwise, noon pa sana nag-object na yung insurance company. No, you don't have an insurable interest. You cannot accept this one. We cannot accept the premiums. Pero tinanggap naman. Tapos nung nagkalubog na at saka may claim na ni-refuse. So that is on insurable interest. Ano ba yung pwedeng ma-insure? What may be insured? Lahat pwede mo ma-insure. Lahat ng property mo against any peril. Can a married woman insure herself for life, sa life niya, pag may mangyari sa kanya, and make her children beneficiary without the consent of her husband? The answer is yes. Okay, pwede po yun. Can a minor make out an insurance? The answer is yes, for as long as ang sabi dito, ang magiging beneficiary niya, ang estate niya, or even her parents. Parties to a contract, as mentioned kanina by Christian Bayon, we have the insured and we have the insurer. Insurer is the company that accepts this insurance risk. And then the insured, the person who pays premiums in order that his property or anything be insured against any peril. Beneficiary, sino yan ang beneficiary? Anong pinagkakaiba nito sa insured, insurer at ang Saliba? Let's call on Sir. Yes, ma'am. Ano po yung beneficiary?
Yung beneficiary po, parang sila po yung pwedeng makatanggap po ng parang insurance din.
That is correct. No? Sila po yung pinangalan ng insured kung in the event na kung life man yan ang makatanggap. Pwede ba lahat ipangalan na magiging beneficiary or may mga limitations po? The example here in the slide is insurance on life. Ako po i-insured ko yung buhay ko. Kung ano mangyari, and then gagawin kong beneficiary somebody, usually under the law, pwede kang maging sino yung beneficiary, except lang kung ang beneficiary doon na pinangalanan mo is against public policy. And under that, who are these persons? Under our civil code, kung sino man yung hindi, those persons who are not allowed to give donations could also not be a beneficiary in that insurance company. So example dito sinabi natin kanina, if I'm guilty of concubinage, no? Mayroon po akong girlfriend and mayroon po akong asawa, married pa kami, nagsasama o hindi, and then I insured my life, yet it was my girlfriend whom I named as beneficiary. Question, Miss Sir, is that proper? Is that allowed?
Kung yung girlfriend niyo po, hindi po, sir.
Bakit?
Kasi po, kasal po kayo.
Yes, that is against public policy and against. Pero ang sabi po dito, pwede ba sa anak ko, sa girlfriend ko?
Yung disqualification po ng beneficiary, hindi po mag-i-extend sa illegitimate child po.
Ano sa palagay mo? It's not here, no? Bakit sa palagay mo na, okay, there is no question na hindi po talaga pwede sa girl lalo or sa girlfriend kasi married po. That's against public policy. And even, ito pa tandaan mo, Miss Sir, at saka sakla, even tinanggap po yan ng insurance company in the event na ikiklaim po yan siya at malalaman ng wife, that could be questioned because again, that is not supposed to be the case. But you are correct there that that prohibition does not extend sa mga bata. Bakit kaya?
I think, sir, kasi anak mo po sila, so talagang
Pwede. Pero ang ano doon is walang kasalanan yung bata. Walang ginawang mali yung bata. Di ba? Wala siyang liability, wala siyang accountability, or whatever under the law. Kaya nga sabi nila, kung tutuusin daw, Rochelle, wala namang illegitimate children. Dapat daw tawagin illegitimate parents kasi wala naman silang kinalaman. But anyway, thank you, Miss Sir, for that. No, let's recap things. Okay, relatives. We have discussed that already, that even if you are not the owner for as long as you will be held liable in the event that the property gets destroyed by a contingency, then you may insure that property or that good. Okay, so that ends our discussion. So basically, when you talk about insurance, is a contract of indemnity. You enter into a contract with an insurer in order that a certain property, a certain part of your body, or your life could be insured against any peril that would come, any contingency, any unknown past or future events, such that when this thing, you or your beneficiary, your named beneficiary, would be entitled to that insured amount, or you will be entitled to that insured amount for the loss or damage of your vehicles, your property, etc. Okay, so basically yun po yung concept, and other provisions on contracts apply also in insurance contracts. Like for example, if there is a conflict as to the interpretation of the provisions of the insurance contract, the rule provides that it should be ruled or it should be interpreted in favor of the insured, not the insurer. Why? Because basically, contracts are prepared by insurance companies. So, and most often contracts are prepared one-sided. Dun lang po yan.